What's up with it and what's going down, YouTube world? Good looking on tuning in for a cool reaction video. I'm him, the King Cool. Hope everybody chilling. Hope everybody being cool out there today. So today's video that we gonna get into and rap about a few ticks is the gun control or a solution to gun violence. I don't know what it is. It's something from Vox. Vox about a solution to gun control. I guess it's a big topic about guns and in the wake of mass shootings and all the shootings that happen in the United States. Really, me personally, I ain't got nothing against people with guns, and I don't know what's gonna solve gun violence because there's too many guns in this country, and it's a gang of crazy people that's willing to use guns. So you need a gun to protect yourself. So I don't know, but let's go ahead and get into this video. Here we go.
Every time there's another mass shooting in America, politicians
You
have
need
the
to buy a
same
gun.
idea.
It's time to require a background check for anyone who wants to buy a gun.
I'm one of the Republicans who does.
Which I thought it was a background check for everybody who wanted to buy a gun.
The existing background check system is broken.
Oh, I have an appetite for background checks. We're going to be doing background checks.
Here's what they want to
Stop
change.
lying.
Right now,
You know when Donald Trump say something so long, I got an appetite for background checks. We're gonna do background checks.
If
It's
they
a
buy
lie.
a gun from an unlicensed dealer, like at a gun show or a private sale. But with universal background checks, everyone who buys a gun would have to go through one. Pretty much every American is in favor of this. There's only one problem. Universal background checks won't solve America's gun crisis, but there's
Exactly.
something else that might.
Because there's so many guns,
To
and people
understand
gonna
how
be able to
background
get a
checks
gun.
work, it helps to imagine two very different people who both want to buy a gun. The first person is dangerous. Maybe he has a history
Crazy.
of domestic violence or mental illness. And most importantly, he has a record. And the second one is not dangerous. He just wants a gun for protection or to go hunting.
Because
or
he got to
'cause
protect himself from the
shooting guns is
crazy
kind of fun.
person that want the gun.
Before either one can buy a gun, they first have to go through an FBI instant background check. And I mean
If you buy it from a
instant.
store.
It only takes an average of 108 seconds to get a response from the FBI's database. That database is made up of records sent in by state police and other agencies, and it's checked to see if the buyer has things like a criminal record, addiction, a restraining order, or has been hospitalized for a mental illness. Under a universal background check,
But see, the only way you would know if the person is dangerous if they was doing a federal background check is if they already had like a criminal record. You know what I'm saying? Or if they was like had a record of being in a mental hospital. But even if they was a dangerous person with no criminal record, you wouldn't know. So therefore you couldn't deny them access to a gun. You feel me? Or like what if they had the gun or access to the gun and all of a sudden they snapped and something happened and they snapped and just start, wanted to do something crazy. So I mean,
check system, anyone buying a gun, whether
really
in a
it's
gun
for
store or
criminals
through a
and
private
felons.
sale,
That's why they doing a
have to be
background
checked
check.
through that database. That means our second
Which is-
person walks out with a gun, and our first person with a criminal record doesn't,
Right.
or at least he shouldn't.
I've done a lot of reporting on this. We have just seen time and time again that background checks do not stop people who we don't want having guns from actually getting the weapons.
There are a couple problems with the background check system. One is that the
The
FBI
people
database
we don't
is
want
about as
having
outdated
guns, which
as
is
its logo.
what people
It's
you don't want
missing
having
millions
guns.
of records.
It's not just
That's why
crazy
the Charleston
people.
church
Yeah,
shooter
it might
was
have
able to
something
buy
to
a
do
gun,
with
despite having a
color of their
record.
skin, maybe. I
Or
don't
why
know.
the man who killed 26 Texan churchgoers was also able to pass a background check after the Air Force failed to send his domestic abuse convictions to the FBI. So even with a background check for every type of sale, there's still a chance this guy gets a gun. That's partly why study after study has found that while background checks prevent or make substantially more difficult the criminal acquisition of firearms, making them universal doesn't have any effect on the actual gun crisis in America.
Right.
Gun deaths.
So what's
A
the point
Johns
of the
Hopkins
outcry
study of
for
California,
background
where
checks?
comprehensive background checks were implemented in 1991, found that the law was not associated with changes in firearm suicide or homicide, thanks in part to those incomplete and missing records. The other problem with background checks is that they only look at good people and already bad people, but there is an in-between.
Man, what
Background
is
checks are
this
supposed to
bad
catch
people they want?
who
This
have
shit getting on my
no
nerves,
record
man.
already. It just misses all the people who haven't done anything bad yet, but might do something bad in the future.
See what I'm saying? How can you predict that? There's no way to predict. He's talking about, you know what I'm saying, if they haven't done anything wrong yet, of course. So you wouldn't be able to stop, like I said earlier, there's no way to stop it with a background check. Because just because a person could be crazy and not, you know what I'm saying, done nothing to commit a crime. And it's crazy that they trying to say they want to keep everybody with a criminal record away from having access to a weapon or firearm. What about people that haven't been convicted of any violent crimes at all? They have no history of violence. They maybe have a criminal history when it comes to whatever. The only thing I know you get a criminal history without violence is drugs. You feel me? So if you got a drug conviction, you know what I'm saying, and you don't have a history of violence, you automatically don't have access to a firearm or a weapon to protect yourself against everybody else, the crazy people who haven't done nothing yet, from having weapons too. You feel me? So you basically cattle. You basically a victim. You see what I'm saying? Because you don't have access to a weapon and everybody else does. But
Herman is not advocating
talking about
for
some
a Minority Report
Report
situation.
Right. That
He's
is,
talking
like I
about
said,
someone
Minority
like this guy,
Report.
who's also dangerous, but who doesn't have a record. Under a universal background check system, he could get a gun in 108 seconds. But
Exactly.
there's another system that could prevent this. 12 states and DC have gone one step further and established a licensing system. How's it different? Well, here's how it works in Massachusetts.
Oh, so if you get
Before
a
you
gun,
ever go
you will
to a
have
gun
a
store,
license.
you first have to take a firearm safety course. Then you have to go to the police department and submit an application, give references, and give your fingerprints for a background check.
That's against the
Then not
law, though.
only is
That's
the FBI
illegal.
database checked, but all local law enforcement agencies, wherever you've lived, are directly contacted, along with the Department of Mental Health. That entire process in Massachusetts usually takes about 3 weeks, and most people, about 97%, pass.
Nothing
Right.
about a licensing system will prevent a law-abiding citizen from going through the process and obtaining a firearm.
That's Dr. Cassandra
It's not going to
Kerfasi.
prevent the
She
dangerous
researches
person
health
who's
policy at
law
Johns
abiding as
Hopkins,
well
and
from
she's
getting a
one of the
gun either.
authors from
So
the
this
studies
don't make
earlier.
no sense
She
either.
says the reason licensing works is that it's designed to do both of the big things background checks fail at.
A, to properly identify and screen out people who shouldn't have guns. And B,
Have
create
what?
a system to reduce impulsive gun purchases.
The
That
it's
wouldn't do
designed
anything, man. Let's go back to see what they said you got to do in
Not
under
only is
this
the-
system.
Here's how it works in Massachusetts further and established a licensing
This don't make no
system.
sense.
How's
This
it different?
licensing system don't
Well,
work
here's how it
either.
works in Massachusetts. Before you ever go to a gun store, you first have to take a
Th-
firearm safety course.
Okay, you can pass
Then you have
that.
to go to the police department and submit an application, give references, and give your fingerprints for a background check.
Okay.
Then not only is the
So now, first of all, okay, have a fill out an application to give a references and everything like that. You can find a friend that's a reference that's gonna vouch for you. Now, taking your fingerprint, I don't know how you can fingerprint somebody without them breaking the law. You know what I'm saying? That's because that's a violation of Fourth Amendment. So I basically identify them if they haven't committed a crime. And fingerprint is a form of identification. I mean, yeah, application is one thing if they willing to sign that, and all you have to do is provide reference. But like I said, you could get around that. And if you haven't committed a crime and you're not like involved in nothing where you had mental breaks with no record or nothing with involved in some mental issues, you will still be able to get around that unless they're talking about having the FBI go to talk to these references and people that know these references that you're providing. I'm saying other people that these references might know, so they could get a profile of who you are as a person before you're able to get a gun.
FBI
Like,
database
huh?
checked.
That don't even make no
All
sense.
local law enforcement agencies, wherever you've lived, are directly contacted, along with the Department of Mental Health. That entire process in Massachusetts usually takes about 3 weeks, and most people, about 97%, pass.
Nothing about a licensing system will prevent a law-abiding citizen from going through the process and obtaining a firearm.
Even
That's
if they
Dr.
dangerous.
Cassandra Kerfasi. She researches
A
health
law-abiding
policy at Johns
citizen, even if they
Hopkins,
got
and she's
some
one of the
mental
authors from the
issues.
studies earlier. She says the reason licensing works is that it's designed to do both of the big things background checks fail at.
A, to properly identify and screen out people who shouldn't have guns. And B, create a system to reduce impulsive gun purchases.
The licensing
not gonna
system
stop a
is more
system that-
comprehensive than the one database background check system, so our criminal will be reliably denied a gun. But because it's so meticulous, it also stands a chance of keeping our third guy without a record from getting a gun.
There are
Not
people
necessarily.
who may want to impulsively acquire a firearm, for example, to harm themselves or others. And the process
And if they
of
haven't committed a
obtaining
crime,
license can at least delay that person during that time of crisis,
for a
or
couple of
maybe
weeks.
deter them from getting that firearm at all.
In 1995, Connecticut implemented a licensing system. Over the next 10 years, they saw a drop in gun homicides and gun suicides. Compare that to Missouri, which once had a licensing system but got rid of it in 2007. Over the next decade, they had a huge spike in gun homicides and gun suicides.
I mean,
In
if
both
the data,
states, there were lots of factors involved, but researchers say this shows that licensing works.
I don't know.
It's also pretty popular. Among voters who live in a house with a gun, more than 2/3 think that it's a good idea. Ask all Americans, and more than 3/4 support it.
I mean,
Background
yeah,
checks
I
are
ain't got no
supposed to
problem
stop
with it
bad
either.
people from getting guns, but they often don't. Licensing picks up that slack.
By making sure that people are crossing these hurdles, we just make sure in a much better, stronger way that people are not getting firearms when they shouldn't have them.
So yeah, man, let's go ahead and rap about this a few ticks now. Like I was saying, me personally, I don't have nothing against guns and people owning guns. You know what I'm saying? That like the thing that I find that's just hypocritical about this whole gun issue is you have people who are for gun rights, right? Because they say in the Constitution is saying our gun rights shall not be infringed upon. But then you have ways like for people for your gun rights to be infringed upon. Like one of the things they mentioned in here was addiction, right? So basically, before marijuana became legal, or even though it's legal now, right? You can still be charged federally for a gun crime if you admit to smoking weed, right? Or smoking marijuana. You admit to smoking marijuana and you got a gun that's made or purchased or from a different state. You could get a federal charge for owning a gun. My nephew right now got a federal charge because of saying that he smoked weed and he had a gun on him. So they infringe upon it. And he don't have a criminal record at all. But because he told him that he smoked weed before, he got a federal charge. Again, prohibiting who they say are criminals from getting firearms, which is felons. So you can't get a firearm if you're a felon. But if you're a felon that's non-violent, you still can't get a firearm. Now, you may be able to get your rights restored as a non-violent felon, but the fact is you could be prohibited from owning a firearm just based on the fact that you have a criminal record, even though if you have no history of violent crimes at all. So that's an infringement upon our gun rights. But look, there's no reason that as many resources I say this country should have available, this licensing system, sure, cool. That ain't gonna cost no money to do no licensing like that to applications. But like I was saying earlier, I feel that there ain't gonna be no way to stop it, because even if you have like they said, the main thing for you under the license system and for you to get a gun is the fact that you just have to be a law-abiding citizen and not having a criminal record. But that's no different than a background check, because even if you have the background check and you a crazy person, and you haven't committed no crimes and you don't have no history of psych evaluations in no mental hospitals or addicted to nothing, and you can get around the whole references and everything, you can get a gun. So the same with the background check is the same shit with the licensing. Even if you have a license and you do the whole fingerprint, if you ain't got nothing in the database to come back to say you committed a crime, you still get access to a gun. And that still don't even stop the illegal sales and the private gun owners who sell guns. So, I mean, this issue is, I don't see no way to tackle the issue. You see what I'm saying? They can try to implement whatever they want to, type of reforms they want. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's more guns in this country than people in this country. So that's the main factor of why there's so many guns. And it's going to be guns in this country. And people going to have easy access to guns in this country. The thing is, shit, I don't know. Everybody going to have to arm themselves just to make sure that their life ain't in danger. I mean, you got to get the drop on the person before they get the drop on you. But you got to protect yourself in this life, because this is crazy. You got these crazy people that be doing these mass shootings and everything in these stores. I don't know if there's people in these areas where they doing these mass shootings, anybody in there armed. But you know what I'm saying? But I know out here where I stay, everybody armed out here. So I don't know if there was a mass shooting out here and somebody was in the store. They might get, you know what I'm saying, get fired back at out here. But man, y'all let me know what y'all think about this whole gun business and what they talking about and everything. Like I said, man, I ain't for no infringement on gun rights, and I don't really care about people that do have guns. I just know that whole reasoning behind people that smoke weed or whatever and nonviolent felons not being able to have gun ownership. That's some bull to me. But yeah, man, y'all hit the like, hit the subscribe. I appreciate y'all support. Y'all be cool out there. Peace.
Speak money, big money, talk to him. Hot boy, big